Really?
We were like, who's going to go first there? Hi, everyone.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of We've Got This Maybe,
The podcast.
Woo! How you doing?
Yeah, a bit loaded with a summer cold, Erin.
God, you couldn't write it, could you?
Oh,
The weather we've been having, 30 degrees, and you have a cold.
It's just not on, is it? It's rubbish. And especially when, you don't want to be inside because it's so hot. Yeah. And then you don't want to be outside because you're like, oh, it feels so stuffy. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you can't win, can you?
No.
Anyway, I am sucking it up and I'm here. We are here with our glasses of chilled wine.
I know, and we need it. We're coming to the end now.
Well, it's in sight, isn't it?
Yeah, the end is in sight. School is on the horizon. Yeah. As much as we love our children, we cannot wait for them.
Oh, do you know what? I'm really craving the routine. I think that, and you know how they say, oh, well, the routine all goes out for the kids and it's really difficult for them because they don't have a routine. I'm like, it's really difficult for me.
It is. It really is. And it's the balance of, who's sacrificing what. Are they sacrificing something? Are we sacrificing? And I do think it's really hard for the children because as much as they're having fun and, they're doing this club, they might be seeing their friends, they're going on a holiday, they just need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
In the same way that we do.
I do also think that kind of like that whole like holiday regression thing kind of happens. So I don't know about you, but we have noticed in Sophia in the last couple of weeks, it hasn't been the whole time, but the last couple of weeks, there's been a bit of a regression where she's being a little more, not babyish, but there's sort of more of an immaturity to her, and I don't know whether that's at school. Obviously, they're pushing them to learn, they're learning new stuff. So it's kind of like, progression, whereas this is regression because there's nothing to, obviously every day is a new lesson, isn't it?
And just pushing the boundaries. They're tired, they're bored potentially, lots and lots of stuff going on. And as always, our like precursor to our episode always feeds in so lovely to the topic that we're going to talk about is this summer holiday is a really good example, right? So we're taking our kids to the park more often, they're at home more often. We're seeing them maybe trying new things, challenging themselves, doing things in situations that we may not have seen them do before. And do we like it? Do we fear for them? Do we encourage them to check themselves? Or, are we trying to keep them all wrapped up in that lovely soft ball of cotton wool?
And this, and this is what this whole there's loads of these conversations going on at the moment, isn't there, about like our kids and, are we doing too much for them? Are we hand holding them too much? Blah, blah, blah. But like, I was literally saying this to Lawrence the other day. George is turning 14 at the end of this year. And I was 14 when I went to my first festival. My parents literally like threw me out the car with a tent and a duvet, multi-pack of Space Raiders. And that was it. Like, have a good time. And I was there for like from Friday to Sunday on my own with my sister.
No phone.
Pound
like the phone box, maybe.
But again, these days, like I wouldn't even dare trust George to, and I don't know whether it's external threat or whether it's, them as how they've grown up different to us.
I was going to say, are our 14-year-old children now younger than we were at 14? Or did we just feel older and our parents or any adult would have still looked at us in the same way that we look at a 14-year-old?
Or were our parents, as their generation, more comfortable and used to sending kids out on their own? This whole thing about how the fact that like kids used to work, I think you were saying about,
my dad worked on the milk float, or sat on it for a good ride anyway.
Some kids used to be delivery kids at the age of 10 and things like that. So there was like a generational sort of expectation.
But I don't know about you, but when I was like younger, it was still quite normal for like kids to have a paper round.
Yeah.
And I remember when the rules changed on like children working, because I always really wanted to have a Saturday job. And when I was younger, you had to be 14 or something like that to have a Saturday job, you know, sweeping the hair in a hair salon. And I was so looking forward to doing that because I was always just like really into doing something, you know, craved an activity. And then, you know, probably a few years before I turned 14, the rules changed that you had to be 16.
Right.
So there was like a real big shift.
So I think the thing, it's funny enough, we were looking at this for George. So I think from the age of 13, you can still do certain jobs, but not at the level like of someone working in a hair salon or something. There's like a certain level that you can still do stuff, but it's so little. There's literally like 3 jobs he could get, because he was like, oh, can I earn my own money now? Yeah. You know, we're like, well, yeah, I suppose you can. And then we looked at it on the government's website and it was like, yeah, it was literally like, I think you could hand out newspapers or something, or there's like only 3 different jobs that you could do.
But that was normal. Like I had people that I knew from school that would do a paper round in the morning and then go to school.
Wow, yeah, exactly. Whereas now, God, I could barely get my kids out of bed.
I was literally just thinking you get them out of bed. So like, what were your parents like then in terms of, do you think that they like wrapped you up in cotton wool, or were you quite exposed to the world? Were you quite free to do what you wanted? Were they heavily involved?
So I would say, psychoanalyzing as I always do, my dad came from a family, he was one of 7. So I think, and also sort of like in that northeast setting, everybody was quite trustworthy. It was very safe. Like nobody used to lock their doors type of thing. Like I remember going around to my grandma's when I was like, I don't know, 13, 14, hopping on the bus, going down to my other grandma's house, and the back door was open. Hi, Grandma. Like just walking in, like, you know, they didn't even know I was coming, kind of thing. So I think my parents were pretty trusting. Like they whether that was the wise decision or not, you know, they were pretty damn trusting, and I think they did entrust us with a lot of like they respected us to sort of, you know, go out in the world and do things at fairly young ages. I guess they certainly didn't wrap us up in cotton wool, but at the same time, I think they very much kind of tried to instill a sense of, you know, respect the world and it'll respect you, kind of, you know, do it unto others like you want done to you type of thing.
Yeah.
And don't get in trouble with the police. I mean, that's the...
And I think that's it. Like, I have like vivid memories of being in primary school, and our school was, you know, relatively close to where we lived, like less than a 5-minute walk. Like we're talking a few minutes walk, like around the corner. And, you know, when I was, I don't even know how old you are in school. So I must have been like maybe 9 or 10. You know, I'd come home, and by this point I wasn't going to a childminder. So yeah, I must have been in like year 4, 5 or 6, something like that. So I'd walk home. I'd call my mum from my house phone to her work phone, desk phone, tell her I was home, and then like half an hour or 45 minutes later, she'd come home. But then there's sometimes I would walk home with my friends, call her, and then tell her I was walking up the high street for half an hour, go into like the equivalent of like the pound shop, Superdrug.
Yeah,
you know,
worse.
Yeah, literally. And then, you know, come back, or I'd go to the park and, you know, things like that. And I'd then come
you were like, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Would you like, you know, I mean, Maxwell's 10 now, and I you know, he is a pretty mature 10-year-old, but I still would be nervous about him doing something like that.
But this is our parents just taking a call from us off a phone and then not being able to contact us.
Yeah.
Not actually being even in the house, being somewhere else at work, and just being like, okay, they'll be home. And, you know, me and my brother, like we actually probably didn't go out or do as much as lots of people that we know. Like people that I was friends with would literally like play out every night. And we never really did that because we didn't have people that lived that close to us, and we just weren't really doing that sort of thing. I don't know why, but we just weren't. But they would literally, someone would knock for them, they'd go out and they would come back hours later and be done with it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember my parents saying, like, we lived in the middle, when we lived in York, we were in a village in the middle of nowhere, and I'd literally get on my bike, and the only requirement was that I was home when the lights come on. the street lighting comes on. And that's the only requirement they'd have.
And what would your
be out all day.
What would your parents do in that meantime? Like, have some free time?
Yeah, I guess. Like, I was out, I was doing all sorts of weird stuff. Like, I'd sit by the river. I'd like throw sticks in the river. Like, it was just, I wasn't like doing anything, monumental, but you just like were chilling. You were doing stuff. You were kind of like sat with your mates on your bikes. You were going to buy some penny sweets from the campsite shop, stuff like that. It's very twee being from Yorkshire. But, like it was, they just had we were out from like 10 a.m. till when were the lights gone in the summer? Like 8 o'clock, 9? Like we were back like late.
And like, how do you think that like impacted you? Like, were you like streetwise? Like,
that's a really good question. I don't know. Was I not? Who knows? I'm here. That's one thing. So I suppose in a way, maybe there was a bit of street smarts, but I think we have to have a different street smarts now. Like, this is what we worry about. Like, I particularly worry about, I worry about the boys more than Sophia in some ways, and this is why we ended up moving out of London, because I was just I was concerned. And it's like 1 in a million, but there's more risk of the 1 in a million happening, when you are in an urban environment. And, the two boys were growing up and they'll want to go out with their mates. And I'm thinking, Jesus, what if they come across a dude with a knife, a dude with like, these things are real. This is reality that we're living in now. I don't know if you saw it in the news the other day about Woking, someone got stabbed in Woking. And I'm just like, this is like a non-place for that kind of stuff. And it's worrying, because the argument, I guess, is the ignorance we had decades ago, where we wouldn't hear all left, right and centre every single kind of stabbing, shooting.
Social media, it's only presented to you if it was on the news.
But also statistics are better. This is one of the things as well, is that we were talking about this at work, because evidence data is better now. They record more, so therefore the statistics are like, did you know that 67% of women in your area have la 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 la? Like, it's more real because there's a stat, whereas before it was like, oh, this happened in that town somewhere, I can't remember, someone told me down the pub. Like, it was hearsay. Do you know what I mean?
I do, and it's really difficult, because I do think, I lived in London, not central London, on the outskirts of London, I guess, but I do feel like I was streetwise. I felt confident, comfortable, walking out. I was never like afraid, and I knew how to carry myself. Like, I knew what the risks were. I would be able to like move away if I saw something I wasn't comfortable with.
And how old were you then when you knew?
Like, I would say like 9, 10 up, because
wow, so it was young,
like young, because I lived in an area where like you did need to sort of be aware. I was getting the bus to senior school when I was 11. I got on a bus 20 minutes away, and then I'd walk home. Sort of things, or I'd walk to the shops. And I was always really comfortable getting on public transport. Even like walking home at night. Like, I would get off the tube and walk home. And I was maybe like 14, 15, 16. I was going into central London on a night out with my friends and hanging around in Trafalgar Square. And, this possibly was when I had a mobile phone, but it was all of that like pay as you go sort of stuff. Not in the way that we have phones now. Like, I would message somebody and say, I'm here. And I'd message them and say, I'm leaving. Like, there was nothing in terms of like last seen online and all of like Life 360. But I think that has set me up to be the way I am now. And part of me worries that, we don't want our children to be, unable or like not confident, or, they don't know how to carry themselves. They don't have that confidence or how to protect themselves. Like, are they missing out? Are we not giving them some fundamental life skills? Like, is that what we're losing? Because I think, part of me thinks that us as a generation probably don't have some of the life skills our parents had, from like needing to go out and do stuff or having responsibility. And are we losing more and more of that? as generations go on.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, our environment has changed. And I think it is different. And are we wiser or not? Like, are we being more like, you know, cotton wool heavy? Or, you know, are we being wiser and more sensible that children are needing more sort of protected time or space to be children before they have to have this maturity to be able to look after themselves
Is
that
that
much?
not part of growing up, though? Is going out and like choosing to take risks and learning about risks? Like, do you know what I mean? Is like if your parents always like mollycoddle you or wrap you up in cotton wool and always like keep you away from risk, how do you learn it? Like how do you parent Sophia when it comes to risk? Like, let's talk about basic risk, like playground or in the garden or what, like how are you with
consequences? So it's kind of like, it's a bit of both, really. And I'm thinking it back to when the boys were younger as well, because God bless them, but Max in particular, like, he was just a bull in a china shop, like, so brave, no fear, like, out he goes, like, does everything. And again, it was the consequences thing. We were saying to Max, well, look, you can do that, but if that falls over, you're going to hit your head. So again, it was sort of like a delivery of choice, but there was I mean, we're not sitting there going, oh, you might die. You know, like, we weren't like bringing like dread into it, but there was kind of like a balanced approach. And sometimes we were just like, no, you can't do that.
I was going to say, do you let them get hurt?
Yeah. So there's some things where it's like, dude, I have told you what might happen. I have told you what you should, like, you know, for example, scooters. You know, scooters, aren't they the most child, you know, friendly things? No.
Go over the handlebars, smash
I'm like,
out.
put those elbow and knee pads on, put the helmet on, please. You could go over the hand. So Sophia literally did that yesterday. She went over the handlebars and she refused to wear a helmet. Thank God she was fine and she scraped her knee and that was it. But she went over those handlebars, you know, and she was in our drive. So it wasn't like she was like, you know, racing round. But again, it's like, it's interesting because if we take this a step further into like siblings and stuff like that, it's like, you know, when one's doing it because they're a bit older, so they can do it. Do you stop the younger one doing it?
Yeah, see, this is something that like we really struggle with at home because Rory is really like risk averse, and he'll always say to me like Erin, you need to go on like some like risk training or something like that. Like he like really obviously sees risk, right?
Yeah.
And I maybe see risk, but in a different way to him. Like I don't ever really remember being like wrapped up in cotton wool as a child, and you know I never broke a bone, I never had any like real serious injuries. And I just think like maybe me not being told all the time that I was going to hurt myself, I was more confident to explore safely. Do you know what I mean? Like,
maybe.
And that's how sometimes I feel like when we're like parenting, like say we're in the park, like Rory almost cannot bear, or like a couple of years ago he might be better now because the children are older, but you know he could never used to bear going to the park with the kids because every contraption in that park he would see as like a danger. And don't get me wrong, whoever designs parks doesn't have kids because you know that free edge like on 3 foot up doesn't feel safe. But like every like apparatus was like a threat, and he would be constantly standing there saying, no, don't do that, be careful.
So how do you manage that together then? How do you do that?
We pick and choose. Like, so like we've sort of come to like an unofficial thing. Is like Rory doesn't often take them to the park. I'll do that because it's quite stressful for Rory to go to the park. It can be quite stressful for the children because rightly so, they want to learn and explore and try. You know, I remember being young and wanting to come down the fireman's pole. And to come down the fireman's pole, you've got to lean over the edge, hold on, wrap your legs round, and do all of that.
You've got to figure it out.
You've got to figure it out. Like, how do we like expect our children to ever get themselves out of a dangerous situation if we never put them in a slightly dangerous situation? Like, how do they navigate it? So, like that's the park thing. But, you know, for Freddie now especially, he loves nothing more than climbing to the top of something. And I hear myself sometimes being, be careful, no higher, no higher, no higher. And he's like, Mom.
So do you feel you do have a fear? Do you feel there is?
So I feel that I am more risk averse now because I don't want the children to have an accident on my watch. See, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because Rory always tells me I don't see risks right. I now fear that the kids are going to hurt themselves, and I've been watching, and it's because I haven't like done my due diligence on what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I always say to Rory, like, you don't want our children, and he will say, I don't want our children to be flaky. I don't want our children to be melts. Like, we've got 2 boys. They need to know how to handle themselves. Like, you know, Rory's lived and breathed it. Like, you know, how difficult it is sometimes growing up as a boy. You
absolutely
get into difficulty. You need to be able to handle yourselves. We don't want them to not be able to do that, but then we're really worried about them doing anything that might hurt themselves.
So would you encourage them to do things like, let's go through some things. Would you be okay with them doing like soft play? You're fine with soft play?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like we don't mind soft play. However, there is some things in soft play.
Well, this is what I'm thinking. I'll go up the list here.
Right.
Go on.
In the soft play that we go to, there's like monkey bars, right?
Yeah.
But to get up to the monkey bars, they've put this like, I don't know, a raised step. I'm thinking a kid tries to get up onto the monkey bars off this raised step, can't reach, comes down, lands awkwardly, rolls their ankle as they come off this raised platform. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like
I won't
that.
tell you that I bust my nose at 6 years old on the monkey bars then.
Well, but there are some things, it's like what I was saying about whoever designs the park.
Yeah.
There's so many clean edges, or they put a like rope wire up or a barrier. Yeah. But there's like half a metre in between it that somebody could quite easily fall down, especially the littler children.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so that's soft play. We're like, depends. What about water parks?
Haven't done too much of water park. We've done had like splash parks or whatever. That's like generally fine, but we are definitely the sort of parents that are like, don't run around the pool
like that. Like,
don't run, don't do it.
Okay,
careful.
So next one up. What about clip and climb? Have you done clip and climb with them yet?
Haven't done that. So you get everything. We haven't done.
Yeah.
Freddie would love clip and climb, and that's definitely on the list. Part of me thinks that would be okay because they're clipped in.
Well, there's a lot of safety already built into the actual activity.
One of the ones that I don't mind so much that I don't know if Rory would like it is, you know, the climbing frames when you go to the park where they're like the spider's webs.
Yes, Sophia loves them.
Yeah, God, Freddie literally was standing on the top of one the other day and was trying to climb down, but front ways rather than turning around like traversing down. And I was like, I really think you should turn around right now, like right now. He's like, but then I can't see where I'm going. And I'm like, fine, you need to work this out yourself. And it's so difficult because, you know, you all know, like the head teacher of our school actively encourages the children to climb trees. You know, whenever the weather's nice, in his weekly memo he sends out, he's like, go climb some trees and take pictures. I cannot imagine us encouraging the children to climb trees.
Yeah, I have to say we've done it because we live opposite a forest, and it's that I have to say I've taken Sophia on roller coasters.
Yeah.
I've taken her in some pretty hairy situations where, you know, I swear that bar wasn't far enough down on the ride or whatever, you know, and I'm there like that with the hand over. But I have to say, it's not going up the tree, it's getting down.
Wow.
And like her brothers went up with her, you know, and I'm like, oh, look how amazing we are, like in nature. But then like she's stuck at the top of the tree and I'm like, oh, I can't get her. I'm going to have to find the fire brigade. Like,
yeah.
And the boys ended up having to like try and help her down because Lawrence and I couldn't get up there.
Yeah.
You know, and she was crying because obviously, again, that kind of going up's one thing, but coming down's another, isn't it?
Are we like instilling fear in them? And this is my worry. It's like, I don't want to give the kids fears that we have.
Yeah.
Potentially. Like, even the other week, as an example, we went to this like walking spot, and at the walking spot, like Leaf Hill, like, you know, Leaf Hill. And there's like this little like tower there. Kids wanting to go up the tower. Like, Rory doesn't necessarily like heights, and it has that whole risk of it. So Freddie went up, and there's like some like turrets at the top, and there is a bar there, and like Freddie was leaning over, and I had his hand, and like I can see in Rory's face, like he had to then like turn around and walk away and not look. And when I came down, he was like, I don't think I look quite safe. Like, there's not much protecting him, like a waist height bar stopping him from falling over. And I'm like, I know, but we don't want to give him that fear of heights that you have.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for him to be scared of it. He just needs to learn or understand that when you are up high, you don't lean over. You have to educate the risk rather than take them away from the risk sometimes.
Yeah, and this is where I feel I've got a real, I don't know if I do, you know how I was saying about how I use consequences? I don't know, sometimes if I go too far, and I'm like, oh, should I have said that? Should I not? Because, like, you know, when I say to her, if you don't wear your helmet, you could, you know, really hurt your head. It could really, you know, there'll be, you know, sometimes I'm like, there could be blood and like this. And I'm like, am I instilling like too much fear into her? I mean, she still does it. It's obviously not. But, you know, there's a couple of things where I've thought, ooh, should I have said that? Because like you say, you don't know, you don't want to give them that fear that you as the parent are required to think about, because you're the parent, you're parenting, and like they're supposed to be the kids, like being brave and things like that. But there's a real balance about what you tell them and what you tell them for their own safety to make better, good choices, and what you have to do as the parent to look out for.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, maybe you've got to assess the sort of injury that they may get.
Yeah,
like at the end of the day, like, I don't know, fall over, like break your arm, like fracture your ankle, something like that, not life-threatening. Coming off a bike, a scooter, giving yourself brain damage is slightly different. I remember, you know, maybe last year we were on holiday and Freddie had started like learning how to dive into the swimming pool. Absolutely fine, he was great. There was a baby pool, and we had really clearly said to him, like, you don't dive into this pool, like too shallow. What did he do? Dived headfirst into the pool, smacked his nose on the bottom as he come up, he was all bleeding.
Oh, bless him. Oh, I can feel that.
Yeah, and you know, he really could have done himself a serious injury. Like, he dived into a really shallow pool. But for me, at the end of the day, it had happened. By that point, there's nothing you can do about it. So like, how you are getting angry and what you are telling them off for, you need to measure it, because you can't change what's happened. This is why you don't do it again.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're totally right.
Like, you could have really, really hurt yourself. We're really glad that you didn't. It's like, Artie were jumping on the trampoline the other day, and they were playing with a stupid balloon on the trampoline. And I think Rory had said to them already, like, get the balloon off the trampoline, you're being silly with it. Didn't. And then Freddie, you know, sort of like misfitted himself, sort of semi-landed on the balloon and like rolled his ankle a little bit. And Rory had said to me, I knew he was going to do that. I was going to tell him to take the balloon off, but I didn't, because I'm always the parent that is the one like managing the risk. And I was like, well, you know, you told him. At the end of the day, if he hurts himself, he'll know not to be silly with stuff like that again.
Yeah.
Like, I do feel like you've got to let them have some responsibility. Otherwise, what sort of children are we raising?
Yeah, I totally agree. So, okay, let's take this on the other side of the coin now. So obviously we've talked about risk in terms of injuries and impact as physical. So how are you guys when you have the boys out and about? So I'm asking this because Lawrence cannot bear to have the kids more than a meter away from him. Whereas I'm like, yeah, go run to the next green tree down the road. Like, you know, I'm like, yeah, go. You know, and again, Lawrence has the fear of someone like taking them, something happening to them where he can't get to them. And, things like airports or, in high streets, London, in central London.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
fine.
do you know what I mean? What are you and Rory like when you take them into places like that?
So I've got like two examples, I guess. So we live on like a semi-quiet road, like fair enough. Like you can walk down it. So the kids often walk, they might cycle down it. Like I'm quite happy for the children to be a little bit in front of me.
Yeah.
Whereas Rory, and I really do understand this, every house has a driveway. Every driveway's got a car in it.
Yeah, true, yeah.
Like Rory is trying to teach them, and I get that, is you can't just cycle, scoot or walk past a driveway and expect a car not to come out.
Yeah, true.
And he's saying to me, Erin, like, you're not close enough. Like, how can you see what's going on? So, I'm like, oh, well, he just wants to ride his bike, like, whatever. And he's like, yeah, but Erin, what if a car reverses? So that I get. And those sort of things is like a common theme.
Yeah,
I'm quite loose in the sense that I'll be like, Freddie, just make sure you look. And I sort of am expecting other people to be vigilant, and maybe I shouldn't be trusting other people. But then also we went to a friend's child's party a couple of weeks ago, and the children were in a safe environment. There was maybe a 50-meter stretch of grass, and the kids were just running up and down. And like we were sort of socializing on a table, and like Rory got up to, essentially like follow the kids. They were just like, all of the kids were like running laps of this like piece of grass. And I was like, Rory, sit down. Like you can see them from here. They are running 50 meters that way, 50 meters this way. Nothing's going to happen. I was like, stop helicoptering them. They need some space just to feel like they're doing their own thing when we know they're safe.
So, when, and this is literally just coming to my head, like when you're saying how he's telling you that sort of like you're less risk averse than him, like, do you feel that and you're saying that you don't want it to be on your watch, do you think he feels the same? Do you think that's why he's so risk averse?
Potentially. However, if the children have ever had any sort of injury on Rory's watch, it would never have been because he hadn't watched it. It would be because the children were not listening. Whereas I feel like if it was on my watch, it would be because I hadn't taken the adequate steps to protect them. Like, do you know what I mean? So I do think it can be a little skewed. But, I am like, I would say I'm looser, like just quite naturally a bit looser. But I think maybe because I was brought up that way, like I don't ever remember my parents like stepping in and being like, no, in the way that we are. Like I'm forever hearing myself say no, whether it's something to do with an activity, going outdoors, doing something dangerous, eating sweets, anything. Like it's always no. And I'm like, for goodness sake, Erin, you sound like a broken record. Like no wonder the children love being in the company of others sometimes where their parents may be slightly looser because they're allowed to do other things.
Oh, but you remember those days when you knew, you always had like the fun auntie and uncle or the fun godparents or somewhere. You're like, I love going to their house. Their cupboards are full of E-numbers and great, like.
But is that childhood? Is that childhood? Like to having that thrill? Like, I think like, does Freddie like want his friends to come to our house because we'll be like fun and we'll let them do fun things? Or is he a bit like, oh, my mum and dad don't let me do that?
Oh, yeah. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Like
they're getting to that age where they do think that, because he does tell me that he loves going to some people's houses because they do certain things. Yeah, he does. They let me do that. They let me do that.
But is that him pressing buttons where he's like trying to push?
Or you don't know if those parents allow that behaviour because they are amongst friends. And I know we probably do, allow more when we're in the company of others compared to when we're not.
Yeah. And I guess there's an accommodation like of, when you've got a whole host of kids with different parenting, things happening around you, you kind of got to be a little looser, kind of, to kind of... if one has to do one way, one has to do the other, the others don't even have to do it. Like it's... you know,
But
it's tricky to
but
balance.
isn't it hard when you are with people that are maybe like really loose with their kids, and it's really then difficult for you to like rein yours in? Like I remember a party that I don't think you were there actually, but a couple of months ago, and one of the children's like really outgoing, able to climb everything, was like climbing over things that they potentially weren't able to do, but quite impressive that they were able to do it.
Yeah.
And then some of the other children started to try and do it, and then you're like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, where do we draw the line? Because you don't then want to be the no one, but then you also don't want to call out the child and the parent for allowing their child to do something else.
Yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it? So I'm going to let you into a dark secret. One of my biggest problems and challenges as a parent is that if I see another child behaving in a certain way and Sophia, like you say, follow suit, and again, this is obviously a childhood trigger from my childhood, is that I am unfairly harsh on Sophia for it. More so than if she'd just done it herself. And I've recognized that in myself a couple of the last times we've been in like parties or situations where there've been other kids there and she's followed suit, where she hasn't been the starter, she's been a follower. But I don't know why. And again, it's that whole thing where it's obviously my thing, but I generally don't know where it comes from. And there's something where I go unfairly harsh on her. I really come down like a ton of bricks. Do not do that. It's like unfair. And it's something I'm really trying to work on at the moment, because it's almost like you need to get in front of it. Because if it's like when I go Red Ross, but like when I trigger, like I can't bring myself back. It's really difficult. And sometimes Lawrence is like, Vix, what happened? You've really upset her. Like, what have you said to her? And again, it's like, I can't deal with, when other kids are kind of leading kids astray, and I'm kind of like redirecting my anger at someone that, at her, which is really unfair.
But they don't know any better, do they? And that's
and it's really unfair. It's a really difficult one. And I think that kind of really is sort of it's that whole thing of what's our experiences when we were younger and what we were allowed to do, what we weren't allowed to do, what we were expected to do. Versus what we are doing with our children. It's so difficult to manage.
And part of me, like, I do think like my parents were like allowing, we weren't allowed to do everything, but we were allowed to do something. So I think maybe like me and my brother like respected what we could do. And sometimes we would be annoyed at what we couldn't do. And I definitely remember feeling that annoyance as a child sometimes. But, I think like maybe even, especially maybe from my mum's perspective, like I think she was more allowing with us because she maybe wasn't allowed so much when she was
I think we all do it
younger as well.
I definitely think it goes through the generations, because there's that whole thing of you parent in the way that there's things that you pick that you like, and you will parent in the way that you liked, but then there's things that you parent in the way you thought you'd never, like you won't do because you never liked your parents doing it, type of thing. That's that whole thing of you take generationally, and this is where that whole thing about generational trauma has to be broken. Because there's that expectation that goes through, generation by generation.
It does make me sad sometimes to think that my kids might not have those wild experiences. Like we did definitely like do some stupid things, like stuff now that I look back on, and even though like nothing happened, and I'm here to tell the tale, I do almost cringe at how stupid it was, like some of the stuff that we were doing, and that nobody died or something awful happened to them, like something like really stupid stuff.
I totally. And I mean, if you think of sort of the exposure that the kids these days must get through school, through TV, the way that they build kids' TV now, it's all about like, morals and things like that. Whereas like when we were at school, like we never got any of that. You got the police coming to tell you about like crossing the road. That was it.
Didn't you? That was literally stranger danger. Don't take sweets from a funny man called Paul or something like that. Do you know what I mean? What is so funny?
Well, doesn't it? The difference. But yeah, hey, well, look, at the end of the day, I think we've just got to do what we can as parents in the way that we do it and just let them, be kids. And I think there's no guilt or judgment on people who are more worried, and that comes from somewhere.
Yeah, we just can't let our fears impact our children's development. And I think that's where we've really got to check ourselves, because then it's just making everything worse, isn't it? It's like then the children are unnecessarily fearful of something because we have a unrational fear or irrational fear,
That's it. And I mean, it is going to happen either way, but we've got to, like you say, we've just got to try and not let it kind of, completely take over.
Try another thing we've got to try out, even though we've no idea what we've got to go there. Have we got this? Have we got? We're not quite sure. Just another thing that ever-growing list of things that we're just not sure about.
But hey, I mean, I guess this is another one of those conversations that we hope that, all our listeners really enjoy. And, we're really glad that people are messaging in and giving us all these ideas.
I know, we have had some really great feedback recently. So if you haven't already, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, it means a lot. And please leave us a review. We do love getting the reviews and hearing, and that's only the way our podcast gets out to new people, is by everyone else recommending it and reviewing us.
Yeah. So thanks, guys. Yeah. We'll see you again next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See ya.